Welcome to Breaking Bread with Stafford Shurden. I'm here with my special guest and very good lifelong friend, pretty much, Tucker Miller. Welcome to the show, Tucker. Dan brought you your food yet? But...
that's great. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
And Tucker is a consultant. How many years?
50 some odd.
I knew I was getting close to 60.
And if you count when I was 16 years old, thank you, ma'am. My dad sent me to a scouting school.
Did they have full-fledged consultants back then?
There was a few, not many. But I went to a scouting school, and it was held with all the extension and county agents and whatnot. And went over there and just kind of learned how to kind of do a little bit, and just started doing it, checking around here for just some of the local guys.
So even in high school, you were already doing a little local checking?
Yeah. I remember you remember Brooks Farms out there?
Oh, yeah.
That was one of my first ones, Fletcher Clark.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and C.R. and Lloyd Brown out there, that they farmed out east.
I don't remember them.
They farmed out east out there in Tallahatchie County, right next to us, where Dad farmed.
Well, and y'all had two farms, one very famously called the Promised Land, that our Promised Land sandwich is named after.
Yeah.
Why was it called the Promised Land? I think I know the answer.
Well, my dad told me that, I guess his dad, they were farming somewhere and down around Port Gibson, and I think moved down this way, and they were farming some of that really tough, heavy black ground out there on Quiver River, and
oh yeah,
they got a chance to come this way, and the soil type changed from heavy black dirt to good high sandy land, and wasn't wet and wasn't, they said, well, we made it to the Promised Land. We got out of that wet low ground and got up to the good high sand. So
I remember the sign that used to be out there that said Promised Land Plantation on it. Is that what it said?
Yeah, Promised Land Plantation. There was one before that. It had H.T. Miller Planting Company. It had a cotton and cows, cattle. My grandfather had cows back in the day.
Did y'all have cows on the on Promised Land, or was the cows out on Quiver? Both.
I can remember as a kid, there was a pasture back in there, kind of behind the house now, and back over kind of behind Bill Cummins' house. And there was a chute there that they used to put cattle through the chute and deworm them and vaccinate them or whatever they would do. And I was young. I was like 8 or 10 years old when I remembered that.
So when you graduated high school, you went on to Mississippi State to...
Yep, went on to Mississippi State and got a degree in agronomy, and then came and was checking during the summertime, coming home on the weekends and all that kind of thing. Not at a large scale, but still doing it. And then I got back home after graduation. I know my dad decided I need to get a shovel and go to the rice field and help the guys out there in the rice field patch levees. And we had some sandy land rice, and you're a rice farmer, you know the different soil types. When you get it on sandy land and have 4 inches of rain, it blows all your levees out.
That's no fun.
That's no fun. And so
that carry you wanting to farm?
That carried me, and I said, I think I'll go back to school, to graduate school. So I went back for 2 more years. And then got an advanced degree, and at the time it was called pest management. You had to have so many hours in entomology, so many hours in plant pathology, and so many hours in weed science. And so I took all the hours in those three disciplines, and then graduated in '77. And
now, how has that changed? How has the degree changed?
I think they've changed it up to where it's not, I'm not sure, but they did change it. It used to be a pest management degree, but now you have to have, I think the pest management now is an undergraduate. And then you go into, especially if you want to do entomology or plant pathology or weed science. Earlier, it was pest management that had all three of those involved, and then you had to have so many hours in each one of those disciplines. Now, pest management is an undergraduate degree, and then you move on to whatever specialty you would.
I guess back then too, it was pretty strictly cotton, wasn't it?
Back then, it was mostly cotton. Yeah, mostly cotton. Didn't have many consultants back then for corn or soybeans or rice.
There wasn't any corn here.
Yeah, wasn't any corn here. That didn't.
By the farm bill, we couldn't plant corn, could we? Wasn't that the deal?
I think so. I think there was an allotment on it. Something. I can remember allotments on cotton too.
Yeah. I remember when they changed all that allotment, it was like the 94 or 96 Freedom to Farm bill.
Yeah.
And we could plant corn, and that's when we started planting corn on our place.
Mm-hmm.
And we had no clue about corn.
Yeah. Well, nowadays, corn's been an integral part of the rotation now because it helps put organic matter back into the soil for other crops, and it's also
well, it didn't really rotate back in the day.
no, it was strictly all cotton, and then that was your number one issue. And then when you got through with that, you would go to soybeans and plant soybeans whenever you got through with cotton. A lot of times it was too late, or and our soybean yields weren't that good. Now with the early planting of soybeans, we're making a lot better.
What's the biggest change in that time, like from a consultant standpoint? What's changed the most?
I guess that all the different ways that we used to farm. We had insects back in the day. We had boll weevils,
Mm-hmm.
and we've eradicated the boll weevil. We had other insects that took their place. We had just tremendous amount of changes in germplasm of varieties. Back when my dad was farming cotton, if you made a bale and a half to 850 pounds.
You messed around and made 2 bales, you were somebody, wasn't you?
Yeah, if you messed around and made 2 bales. I can remember one time my dad made, after he got through picking, he had like 990 something pounds. And he wanted that 2 bales so bad, and he got the guys. I remember it to this day. I remember Rabbit was one of the picker drivers, and Pumpkin was another driver. And he said, y'all go out there and scrap that cotton until we get that extra 10 pounds that we need. And they scrapped for a couple of days. weren't making any money at it, but
he wanted
he got that 2 bales. He said, I got to have it. And I think that was about I don't know if he made more than that later on once the center pivots, once it started center pivot irrigation and whatnot.
Was there much irrigation when you grew up out there?
I remember there was some, because I remember it wasn't really quite land for them, but they had a couple of wells, one over there behind what the old church used to be,
Mm-hmm.
and they could. I can remember, laying out hard gated pipe and irrigating. That was an 80 acres there, and another 80 acres right there by the house, but not much out there on the river. But it's
The farming's easier, and the duck hunting is not as easy.
That's right. That's right. The duck hunting used to be easy back in the days.
Tell us, I know you got some stories where the statute of limitations may have ended on the duck hunting that you can tell us.
We used to, and I have apologized for my roguishness back in the day. But a lot of times, we would go for the old theory. Well, we didn't kill any yesterday or the day before, but
So got to make up for
we
it.
got to make up for it tomorrow.
And you did?
And we did. And we tried to even it out, But that was a lot of fun back in those days. I have a lot of buddies, and I remember hunting with you when you were young too.
You took me on my very first duck hunt, and we went out to what y'all call the big hole.
Yeah.
And hunted down a coffee weed shack out there. Me and you and Uncle Reggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm done. I was hooked. I was hooked.
Yeah, boy,
It was all over with, but the crying.
that was fun. That was fun. And I remember going one time with you took your daughter with us somewhere because I have a picture of.
That was probably the big hole too, wasn't it?
I think it was. And she had on her camo and holding up ducks.
She doesn't love the duck. She liked deer hunting more.
Mm-hmm.
All that shooting, she didn't love all that. And that's what I like about duck hunting. I like to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Doves the same way. We used to have some incredible dove hunts, and I know y'all did on Promised
We
Land.
did.
There.
We had just incredible dove hunts on both places out there on the river end.
And that was kind of the same thing. We should probably apologize for the things we used to do on a dove field.
That's right.
And now we just hope to kill a limit now.
Yeah, nowadays we get a limit. That's good, and we go by the limit now.
We do.
And same way with ducks.
To me, it's funny because now the limit way higher on ducks than it was back then.
Yeah.
But we had way more ducks. I don't understand it really, unless the flyways just changed or something.
I think maybe the flyway has changed and moved over west, and I don't really understand that.
Because we used to kill like one or two ducks.
Yeah, we had a
and
point
we had
system
way
one
more.
time.
Oh, the point system was terrible.
Remember that? I mean, you could only kill 2 ducks depending on how the points added up. And then they had the pintails used to be a 10-point duck, so you could kill 10 of them.
And now you kill what,
now
one
you
or two?
Kill 1 or 2. So and they've changed it up. But I was at a meeting this morning. We were talking about, what is it? The 100th meridian.
Mm-hmm.
It runs north and south, and it's historically been west of there has been your arid, dry weather, and east of that 100th meridian has been your humid and moist area. And they seem to think that 100th meridian is moving east from where it used to be, making us almost getting into the dry area.
That doesn't sound good.
That doesn't sound good for farmers anyway.
Huh.
This was a water management meeting I was at this morning.
So you're on the YMD Water Management Board?
Management
I used to be on that board some years ago. Who's president of the board now?
There's a guy from South Delta, and I can't call his name right now. It escapes me.
But that's the water management it's the water management, not the levee board, right?
Right. That's
in Stoneville.
Yazoo, Mississippi Delta Water Management Board.
And they, I was on that thing before I became judge.
Yeah. And there's 3 from some. There's at least 2 from all the different counties represented. Woods Eastland and I are on that board from Sunflower County, and Austin Jones, he's from Moorhead.
I was on it with Rex Morgan.
Yeah.
Way back. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was like in 2004 and 5.
Yeah.
Well, I was on it. Whenever Daddy ran for judge, he was on it. He had to get off to run for judge, and then I got on it, and then I had to get off when I ran for judge.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot. I figured out, I don't know if they know really how all that works or not. The water, the groundwater.
Well, what they're trying to do now is to make sure that we are preserving our aquifer,
what we got,
we got, and try to mitigate. We've gone to tailwater recovery ditches and water monitors, meters on the wells, and
who runs the YMD now?
Well, used to be Dean Penny.
Yeah, I knew he is.
Him?
Yeah, he was there when I was there.
He was, and
did he retire? He passed away.
I don't know. I can't remember.
I can't
Don
either.
Christie is kind of the CEO of that right now.
Dillard Melton still over there?
Dillard's still over there. He's a permitting.
I need to go see him, make sure I go every few years just to make sure I didn't miss a well.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm bad about and land, you have land and then you move and you got different land, but it's all interesting.
He gave his report this morning. He updates on how many new wells or new permits.
How many wells is it in Delta?
Well, I could go out to the truck and get my sheet and tell you, but there's a lot of them.
There's thousands of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's amazing we still have the groundwater we have when you think of how many people are drawing out of it every year.
I know. And we don't have the strict regulations and rules that they do, say, out in Kansas
or even Arkansas.
or even Arkansas. Probably out in Kansas, they have a permitted amount of acre feet of water that you can use,
And that's it.
And if you go over that, you get a big fine. And what they're having to do out there is, center pivots are much more efficient than furrow like we do it now. Center pivots, that's all they use out there, and if they go over their permitted amount, and they have monitors, and they have strict monitors, and they can tell you when that.
So it's in real time monitoring.
It's real time, and they can tell you when your permitted amount's gonna be getting close, and then you quit.
Are we ever gonna come to that here?
I don't know.
Are we a long way from that?
I think we're a long way from that but the thing is, center pivots, we've been taking them down.
Yeah. Oh, I've taken a bunch of them down.
Taking a bunch of them down, and we have too. And they've gotten old, and they're not replacing them, and then they're laying.
Well, soybeans, you don't make as good as soybeans under them though.
No.
One reason they're efficient is you can't put out enough water for a crop.
You can't in a lot of places. But when you're limited to only so much, that's how they do it in Kansas with a center pivot.
Have you seen these in-field tailwater recoveries in rice where they row rice, they picking the water back up at the bottom and taking it back to the top?
I've heard of that. I hadn't seen one of those.
It was interesting, and Jimmy Reed is putting one of those out on his farm this year.
Yeah.
But what it does, it's just a little old small well at the bottom, and it never shuts off pretty much. So there's always water running down that road, but it's the same water that's been in the field.
Yeah.
So that apparently is very efficient. So you're holding water in the bottom, at the bottom of that field, and just pumping it back to the top. And it's just a loop, and it never leaves the field.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a pretty good idea. But I don't know, it sometimes look like a lot of candy for a nickel, but they're making the kind of yields off of it that they are off traditional.
Yeah.
Without using that extra water.
All these farming practices have changed, with the different ways we irrigate now, and of course, all the GMO, the traded.
There's still some waste, I know, because we have all those beaver problems on Wild Bill Bayou up there.
Yeah.
And we can get it all dry. And then as soon as everybody starts watering, I'll come out there one morning and the water be back out in the field. So somebody's wasting water.
Somebody is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody wasting water out of that ground. And I don't know who it is, but I don't think it's me.
Yeah.
I think we do a pretty good job, but somebody's letting it run too long.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you get those guys to get with the program and not waste.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the biggest limiting factor we have, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's probably fertility and moisture.
Yeah. I mean, that's
it.
And especially when you get out west, I mean, water is the key.
It is, yeah.
They got to have it to make a crop. And that, if they don't have water, that devalues their land tremendously. So
that I don't know, farming's gonna be interesting the next few years. I do feel like our water table's still pretty good.
I think so, yeah. But those guys over at Y&D, they monitor the water table, and even doing some new studies about injecting pumps. They've got some injector pumps down.
Oh, they do have some now?
Yeah, and
so where are they getting the water from to do that?
They're pumping it out of the ground, but then they're pumping it over in
to the aquifer.
To the aquifer.
So I wondered about that,
It's just they've got several down the line, and I don't know exactly how far between and how far they go, but they're pumping it down in there, and they're doing studies on that to see if that's going to be feasible.
That's interesting. And is that up there where the other well field is? Where the Sunflower River well field that they did?
I think it's south of there. Back down here.
I was on the board when they drilled the well field up there at, they call it Long Lake up north of Clarksdale, Moon Lake up there.
Yeah.
To augment the flow of the Sunflower River.
Yeah.
I was on the board when all that happened.
Yeah, and they're still talking about that. They're still trying to get the flow
perfect down there.
Perfect down through
but
there.
But they do have the well field, right? They
so,
can turn it on and off.
Yeah.
I know they had the measuring things on all the bridges, and they ran calculations when it got to a certain flow, they could switch them on up there from Stoneville.
Yeah.
And that was almost 20 years ago then, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, they're still doing work and research on all that.
That's interesting.
Trying to keep us afloat.
Well, back to the duck hunting. Reckon we're gonna be able to figure out how to get the ducks back down here? Or?
I don't know. I hope so. I keep thinking that they're gonna hold up.
Hey Tom.
How y'all
Good.
doing? Yeah, those I think those ducks. There's a lot of factors involved, like food up north, and those resting ponds that don't freeze up.
And the climate is a little different.
The climate's a little different.
We do stay warmer longer.
Yeah.
We still get cold winters, but it doesn't stay as cold as long as it used to.
And you know, our farming practices around here have changed. I mean, lots of landform fields, no really prairie pothole looking places.
No, we don't have that anymore.
Don't have that anymore.
Well, like even your big hole out there, it lays different. Even though you still got it, it doesn't lay the way it used to.
That's right. That's right.
We used to hunt out there and had all that water behind us.
Had water behind us.
But it would stack in there, and I think that helped it some.
Yeah, it's kind of a natural ditch. It was kind of, you know, it just didn't have all the straight lines.
Yeah.
Like
you think the straight lines mess with them?
I don't know, but I think, you know, I think it's just clean. And our farming practices, you know, are so much earlier now.
Well, we do a better job getting it out.
We do a better job. Early planting soybean system, you plant soybeans earlier than we ever used to. And they're harvested, the corn's harvested, and the land preparation is done for the next year. And there's not any real natural looking.
Yeah, I think our combines are so much better.
The combines are better. They don't waste grain.
If we got wasted grain, it's not a good day.
No.
And we do. I was running like a 15-year-old machine last year, and it did a great job.
Yeah.
You know. But I remember when we used to run those gleaners, they'd leaving a lot behind.
Oh yeah.
And there would always be a bottom somewhere you couldn't get cut that you left, and the ducks got into that.
Yeah.
Now the last few years, one of my landlords, you know Jeb, he's been leaving a good bit of corn, so we've been planting stuff specifically for the ducks, and now that has made a difference.
Yeah.
If you do that, you will get more ducks.
Oh yeah.
He's had a better season than anybody else I know of.
Yeah.
But we've been consistently doing it now for about 5 years. So it took 2 or 3 to get to where he was getting them. We still have water out there.
Yeah.
So we got 36 acres we're still holding water on, and we have ducks right now. And it's March the 18th?
Yeah, I had ducks last week or 10 days ago. I finally got around to pulling the boards, and when I went out there,
it was loaded up.
It was loaded up with ducks.
That's got to help. I mean, that
surely they'll remember that when they come through next
I would
year.
hope so.
I hope so.
They made it through one year. Maybe they can make it all the way back down here again.
Yeah.
They say right there and safe.
They always say they imprint on places
what they
like
say.
that, and they can come straight back to them.
It does seem like that. I know we would level new stuff, and we put those ducks unlimited pipes in back in the 90s, you know, and for the first 3 or 4 years, there wouldn't be a duck on them. And then it got to where we was getting ducks, and then they got to where they stayed on it. And those fields now, we don't put water on them anymore in the winter. Yeah. What do you think the water does to the field, if anything, for the farm next year? Does it, you having that water on top of that ground, pack it in, or you anything? Do you see any difference?
I think it's probably it's good for in one aspect, like if some of these guys at 0 grade water seed rice. Yeah. But as far as you need to get air in that soil. Yeah. As far as activating your fertilizer, your potash, your
so the plant can't really find those nutrients without some oxygen in it.
Anaerobic conditions, you know.
Well,
there's no oxygen down in there, nothing works right.
Well, I was going to say, does that not, you know, we're trying to rebuild our topsoil, holding that water late I just think it can't be good for the topsoil. You got all those organisms in there that can't get oxygen.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't either, really. But I mean, you get it off in time, you know, March.
Yeah.
You know, you should be okay. You can.
It does a good job holding weeds down.
Holds the weeds down.
I will say that. I got some clean fields where we didn't put anything out.
And once you get another crop started, you'll get oxygen built back up in that soil, and the microbes will go back to work. All that.
Is some tillage good for that, or is all tillage bad? I mean, when you start talking about soil health.
I don't know. I know that the cover crops that we're starting to get into now are good for the soil, but some tillage is okay and good if you need to aerate, or you need to, you have to, the way we irrigate now, you have to sometimes
Plow middle out or something.
out for irrigation purposes, and that's not gonna hurt anything. So.
What about is anybody around here doing strip till in this cover crop?
Not that I know of.
I just wonder why that's so popular in the Midwest. Yeah. Is it the wind and all of that?
Wind. You can see.
Need some more?
I'm good. Thank you, ma'am.
Are you still eating on it?
I'm nibbling. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angie.
Yeah. But a lot of that is, the cover crops, and even the strip till is done for wind erosion and stuff like that.
Yeah. I remember when we used to plow cotton. You remember, and you would jump out there, the wind get to blowing like it is out there right now. And whipping that cotton and sand burning that cotton. If we get out there and we plow every other 8 rows and leave 8, just trying to keep that wind, and it worked too.
I've seen it out there behind the house, big old sand hill, and I've seen that wind, and I saw it coming up here a minute ago. Out there, back there, I could see just a brown cloud of dust skimming across the top of the ground.
It'll cut some stuff up too, won't it? It'll cut the leaves, slap off the cotton.
Little tender cotton plant can't take it.
Well, that worked. You wouldn't think it worked, but plowing it, turning that moisture up, it would catch that stuff coming across there. Even not plowing the whole field, just plowing just trying to get across it to get it where it was, and it would help.
It would help.
Because it would be sand burning that cotton so bad.
I know it.
It'd eat them little cotyledons right off of it.
It'd take it, turn them black.
It'd eat them off to the stalk.
Oh, yeah. Booger it up. And then you'd have, that little tender stalk. I like saying if it had any kind of herbicide treatment on it, for pre-emergence.
Oh, yeah. It's in that sand.
It'd be on that sand. It'll blow it in like shooting a bullet through your can there, and it would get that herbicide into that plant, and that was another problem. But we had, Roundup Ready technology came along.
And we started not plowing and all of that.
Not plowing and started not spraying a lot of herbicides.
Did that, I remember when BT cotton came out. I remember so when I was a senior in high school, I went to Mississippi State and they put us through this little summer program. And I came back and I told Daddy, I said, Daddy, they got cotton you can spray Roundup on it, it won't kill it.
Yeah.
And he said, that sounded like a pipe dream to me.
Yeah.
And
I remember.
Then like 2 years later, we were planting BT cotton.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Roundup Ready wasn't out yet. And then it was 3 or 4 more years before the Roundup came out. But how did all of that change farming?
Oh, it enabled farmers to use less equipment. Back in the older days, you'd have 4 or 5 people out there on tractors and cultivators. And now, when Roundup Ready came out, you got rid of all your cultivators, maybe kept one, and big sprayers. And you could spray instead of plow with a big sprayer, and you were able to farm more acres then because
you didn't need as much equipment.
You didn't need as much equipment or labor.
Well, and I tell people all the time, we wouldn't have no-till without, I don't really think we would no-till the way we do without the genetics that we have.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call them, if you want to call them genetically engineered or whatever.
Yeah.
But the genetically engineered plants have been good for nature probably.
Yeah.
Especially soil health we were talking about and all that. You couldn't done a cover crop like we do now. We used to run them 3-bottom subsoils, gap that stuff open, and leave it like that all winter.
All winter long.
And we never think of that now.
Yeah.
If you do any field work, you do it in the fall. But that enabled no-till and probably made so you got less erosion, you got less nitrogen running off into the Gulf. All that stuff is better, and that's all because of Roundup.
Yeah.
Ready.
Yeah. And the no-till and the cover crops have really helped you. Once
Hey, you like to cover crops?
I like it. It takes a little getting used to it after.
How do you? So I'm doing it the first time. Really do like we planted some. The NRC has paid us to plant some in the past, and we killed it early. I got some out there now. It's about that tall. We're ready. We've been to kill it.
Yeah.
Is that about a good size?
Yeah.
And it's got the turnips in it. You like the turnips?
I like the tillage radishes.
Tillage radish.
Yeah, that works good. It penetrates that soil and then.
So it's
breaks the
pulling.
hard pan.
It's breaking hard pan, but it's also. Do you think it pulls nutrients from deep back up to the top?
I think so. Yeah.
So maybe helps us on our fertility.
I think so. And
Because we got a deep topsoil that we're not using really.
Yeah.
We're just using that top.
And
I mean,
then-
what are we using? The top 6 inches probably?
Yeah, probably 6 or 8. Mm-hmm.
And then all that under it is still got nutrients in it.
Yeah. And, after several years of, like you said, the tillage radishes or cover crops, there's a benefit from that because it will eventually get to where you don't have that hard pan anymore and the need for subsoil in that deep goes away because it will
What do you think it does?
a soil probe and push it all the way down through there.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can tell, like you
You can tell it's going to take
you can tell with a soil probe the difference.
And some of the problems that some of the guys have had is wait until the cover crop got too big and get waist high and then kill it, and you just got a mat of
It's just hard to plant into.
hard to plant into. And then people have gone with row cleaners on the front of their planter that kind of cleans that off, and especially
Yeah.
for cotton,
Yeah.
because it's tricky getting
Oh yeah,
it to
because
come
cotton you
together.
ain't planting it
You
that
ain't
deep.
planting it that deep. Yeah, but
Yeah, soybean just get it down in the moisture. She's coming.
she's coming up. Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping we can spray ours. Let's say it's the 18th now. I'm hoping we can spray it pretty quick, and I'd like to plant it
Yeah.
10 or 15 days later.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
And I hope that works good. I'd like to keep doing it. I'm doing it on 160 acres.
Yeah.
And the geese ate it up pretty bad.
Yeah.
But as soon as it got warm, and we had that one warm week in February, that stuff greened up and
Mhm.
came back out, looked good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the cover crop, and I'm sure the deer ate on it all year, and the geese ate on it.
Yeah.
So it's good for the environment. And I'm hoping that I got a really good row, and that ground kind of soft anyway. I would imagine all that root mass will help hold the tractor up a little better.
It will.
So maybe I won't have to, because some of that gumbo we got, you about got to break it in the fall because it's so soft.
Yeah.
You make ruts when you're planting and spraying and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
That ought to help with it too, I hope.
It will. Yeah. But it's good for the environment. Like I said, your water that runs out of there into your ditches is clear.
Yeah.
It's not
So you're not losing all that
Not
topsoil.
losing topsoil.
Which if you're losing topsoil, you got to be losing nutrients with it.
Yeah.
So you put all that stuff out, and then it runs out the bottom of the ditch. That
That's right. That's
don't
right.
make any sense. I mean, I got that much sense.
But there's been a lot of changes, with all the traits now, with the insecticidal traits. We've reduced toxic pesticides a whole lot by having these traits that will control insects that we used to have to spray heavy phosphate insecticides out multiple times.
You think and I think that's a misnomer out there. I think people think we're spraying more.
They think we are, and we're not.
We're spraying less.
Spraying less. And with the newer chemistries, the active ingredients, instead of back in the older days, you were putting out pounds per acre of active, and now you're putting out 1/100th of a pound active. You see what I'm saying? Back in the days when we had toxaphene, DDT, and methylparathine, those are all 3-pound material or 6-pound material, and you'd put out a pound of it. Mix it with something else, and you were putting out tremendous amounts of active ingredient into the
And that couldn't have been good for anybody.
It wasn't. It couldn't have been for any kind of pollinators or anything. Now,
Or humans, for that matter.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
So now they're so much safer. All the insecticides that we use now are so much safer, and the active ingredient going into the environment is like hundreds of times less.
And can we, I'm not trying to, I don't guess I'm trying to talk up the genetics, but that played a role in being able to do that, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. We were able to
Genetically engineering these plants.
able to control insects and weeds with the Roundup Ready technology and the dicamba tolerant crops and whatnot. Now, if we can survive the Endangered Species Act and not,
So what's coming with the Endangered Species Act?
well, let's,
What do you know about that?
it's in progress, but there's mitigation steps that you have to take. You have to get so many points with your mitigation to be able to, and that's if you have a known endangered species in your area.
Yeah.
You got to go to the live bulletin and find out where that is and which one it is, and then you can get. It's going to be, I think, a doable thing to get your mitigation points built up.
So every farmer's gonna have points the way this is gonna work.
It's if you have an endangered species in that area.
In the area,
you can go to the map and look and see what it is and where it is. And most of them are down south and east, I think. But
so I couldn't imagine what would be one here. Can you?
I can't. But
if we had the woodpecker, maybe still, the woodpecker's gone.
Or some sort of smelt fish or something,
Yeah,
or
mussels
snail,
in the ditches. I will say I remember when you clean a ditch out when I was a kid, there would be mussels all in the ditch bank when you clean. You don't see them anymore.
You don't see them anymore. All out in the old dry quiver bed when it got dry.
Oh yeah. Hey, have a good one.
But yeah, it's we'll just have to stay abreast of the new rules and regulations and try to hope that they're not too intrusive and we can still farm.
Hey, young guys got a lot to look forward to, don't they?
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm almost glad I'm as old as I am. Y'all have to deal with this thing. I'm glad people like you are still carrying the torch. That's good.
Well, this is my 30th or 31st crop. I lose track. I think it's my 30th this year.
Yeah.
If you count the 4 years I worked with Daddy and Reggie,
Yeah.
That's not counting in college and growing up around it.
Right.
But 30 years is a while to do it.
That's a long time.
And my nephew, this will be his second.
Yeah.
It'll be his second. And that's what I told him. I don't know if he knows what he's getting into or not.
Yeah. Well.
Has it ever been, you were checking cotton in the 80s. You know what that was like. Yeah. Does this remind you of that?
Kind of does. And then we seem to always, survive this thing. I was talking to an older farmer the other day. I just stopped by and visited with him, and he said, I remember. He said you can hope for things, and he remembered the Farm Bill in '84. He brought that up, and of course I can't remember what it was, but he said that saved us when we got back going.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I was thinking about that too because we hadn't even had a farm bill. I posted something the other day and somebody said, be honest, how much money did you get from the government last year? And I think people would be shocked how little it was.
Yeah.
I did get a little something. But what people think of as traditional farm payments, we got zero.
Yeah.
That's gone.
That's gone.
Now, we got some stuff doing projects with the government for resource conservation.
Yeah.
So I did some conservation projects and they repaid me on what I spent on it. But as far as getting money for farming, we don't get anything anymore.
No.
And there's talk that we're supposed to be getting some money.
I'm supposed to be getting some money.
But we haven't seen it.
Different amounts for different crops.
But nobody's seen anything.
I don't think it's.
But
it's
we hadn't had
soon.
It was supposed to be by the 15th, and it's the 18th.
Yeah.
But we hadn't had an actual farm bill in like 3 or 4 years. I don't think people understand that.
Yeah.
That no, we're not getting that government subsidy that we used to get.
Yeah. Well, I hope Trump has said he's for the small farmer
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something where the bigger corporate farms couldn't participate to the level they used to.
Well, yeah, there's no family farms hardly left anymore.
No, I'm one.
Yeah.
But I know the bigger guys usually get more per acre, and I get per acre, and right. I never figured that out.
Yeah.
The last couple of times that they did some stuff where we had the beans that year that they gave some money away, I didn't get any of that.
Yeah.
So the last 2 or 3 times they've given money, I didn't get any of it.
That's right, yeah.
And then I know guys that doing better than me that got it, so I don't really understand it anymore.
Yeah.
But when you don't have a farm bill,
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know what the problem is, but it doesn't seem like they can get one together.
Yeah. Well,
do you think, and I thought about this, you had that huge hurting in the 80s. That's when Drew really started to suffer. You think this farmer struggling maybe had something to do with some of these small towns kind of drying up?
I'm sure so. Yeah.
I mean, some people just said, well, there's nothing left here. Let's get on out of here.
Yeah. I'm sure that was part of it.
What was Drew like when you were a kid?
Oh, it was unbelievable how nice this place was. This whole main street had stores up and down it. We used to ride our bicycles up here and go to the drugstore and get ice cream, and had 2 car dealerships back in those days. Several department stores. You could buy clothes. You could buy suits.
Yeah.
Had a cleaners. You get your clothes.
Did you ever come in here when it was Sklar's?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and had 2 drugstores. Had White's drugstore on this end, and Eason's down on the other end. You ever remember them?
I don't, but I remember the drugstore and the clinic over here together.
Yeah, that was
Doctor.
that was after even that one. There was another one down there, and so it was really something. We had Little League baseball.
Yeah,
games.
I still had that when I was coming up.
Coming up.
So I started out playing over here behind on the other side of town, and then we moved out on the highway when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
So my first year, maybe my first 2 years, we were over here.
Yeah.
Jack Land Field, wasn't it?
Jack Land Field, yeah.
And then we moved out on the highway. Oakley gave that land there.
Yeah.
By where Dollar General is now.
Right. And then we had a big swimming pool right there.
Had 2 swimming pools.
Had 2 swimming pools. Yeah. And that was I guess kind of like Mayberry back in the day.
That's what everybody said. Anytime Archie talks about Drew, he said it was like Mayberry.
It was.
And did y'all live in town back then? Or?
Yeah.
So you lived in town.
I lived in town. Mom and Dad and me and my brother, we lived in town over there until I was a senior in high school, and then Mom and Dad moved out to the country where I live now.
Right.
And my whole college years, they were living out there. So when I'd come back home from college or whatever, that's where we came.
Who lived in the house in town then?
They rented it out to several people.
And then when you came back, you lived there in town, right?
Yeah.
Weren't you on the board for a little while, too, the city board?
I was on the city board for 2 terms, 8 years, I guess. Was it 4-year terms back then?
I think so.
Yeah, I was on the board for 2 terms.
Who was the mayor then? Wakeham?
No, the mayor was Snake Williford.
Oh, Snake Williford.
Remember Snake? I don't know where you got that nickname.
So somebody told me one time, and I don't know if this is true, he played football for Mississippi State. And was a running back, and they said he would snake through the defense.
That's where
he got that.
I think so. He was a World War II veteran too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had.
But you got a mayor named Snake, and the senator's name was Crook.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Old Snake. He was something.
I bet somebody around here got some good Snake Williford stories too.
I'm sure they do, because I lived right next door. We, grew up right next door. They had 3 boys, and there were 2 boys in our family, and so it's 5 of us right there in one spot. And then the Shurdens on the other side had boys, and it was just like, and then Charlie Stevens back in the back. I mean, we had a whole circle. And the only girl in the whole thing was Cheryl Dubard.
Oh, yeah.
Dubard. She was my age, and she was a tomboy because she had to deal with all the boys.
She didn't have any choice but to be.
She didn't have any choice.
Yeah, because you had Steve and Larry and Mike right there next to you.
And Mike.
And then Bob and them.
Bob and Sam and Bill.
Right.
And then me and Mark. And all those Stevens boys, Butch and Charlie, and there's about 4 of them.
Yeah, it was. And Charlie's still here.
Yeah. So those were the good old days. We had us a crew right through that.
Did y'all ever get in any real trouble?
Oh, not. I don't think we ever did. I remember Bill Williford. Mom and Dad were watering the yard out there with a sprinkler and a hose, and he came over there and he opened their front door and put that sprinkler in the hall. He got in trouble for that.
And probably nobody had a locked door back then.
And we
What years were you on the board?
whew, I can't even remember now.
80s? Early 80s?
Somewhere in the 80s, I think. Not sure. Yeah, probably so. I'd have to go back and find a record of it.
And they made you, was it Snake that couldn't get along with the chief and they made you the commissioner?
That was the police commissioner. Yeah, they had some trouble. I still got my badge. It has police commissioner on it.
So what's the police commissioner do?
I don't think it was anything but a title.
Yeah.
I don't think I remember doing anything. See right there.
Has that got you out of any tickets?
Commissioner of Drew.
A.T. Miller the third police commissioner.
Yeah, I broke my little clip off.
Do you
the
clip
back
on
of
it?
So I
Yeah,
just
you need one of them to wear to the Mississippi State game.
You know, they will, if you keep it right there visible by your driver's license, they will get you out of a ticket every once in a while.
Daddy had a hat that he won playing golf from Bobby McFadden. They got to the end and he said, well, look on this next hole. If I win, I want your hat. He said, what in the world are you going to do with that hat? He said, you let me worry about that.
Yeah.
Because Daddy never wore a hat. So he beat, Bobby McFadden was our local highway patrolman.
Yeah.
But he beat Mr. Bobby, won that hat, and this boy would wait for his judge. And he just kept it on the dash of his truck. He said, if I ever get pulled over, they're going to have to ask about that hat.
They'll have to. Yeah.
And so sure enough, he was going to Mississippi State for something. He got pulled over. And the guy looked at the dash and looked at his hat. He said, where'd you get that hat? He said, I beat it off Bobby McFadden playing golf. And the guy said, get on out of here. So he told him 100% the truth,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But that's those were fun time too. Him living here and Mr. Williford living here and being an officer, those were good times.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Old Snake was the Boy Scout leader back in the day.
You can't make that up
Can't
either.
make that up. And
What all kind of stuff he take y'all to do?
we went to Camp Tally Hall and all that kind of thing, and we did all kinds of stuff. And used to have a scout hut, which was right across from his house.
Really?
Yeah, it was
Here in Drew?
Here in Drew, it was
I didn't know that.
not in the baseball field area, but right in front of that.
I didn't know that.
And I can't remember what it was used for, but we had a slot in it. It's kind of like a storage facility where we kept the tents and all that kind of stuff. It's a scout hut.
And of course, you were my scout leader.
Yep.
And we did it at the church.
Did it
over
out
here.
of the church? Yeah, yeah.
And we went to Tyler Hall and went over to, what did we do at Grenada? We went over there and they had some kind of big thing.
Probably a jamboree or something.
It was some kind of big jamboree
Yeah,
you took us to over there.
Yeah.
And we camped out at Grenada, but we did the Tyler Hall was still open when I came through.
Yeah.
That was another thing that's gone from the Delta
That's
that was fun.
Yeah. Now, my grandchildren are in the Scouts at Starkville.
They still got a good troop
They
over
got
there.
a good troop over there, and they do a lot of
Is
things.
Casey McCain still work for the Scouts?
Casey Manning?
I mean, Manning. I said McCain.
I think so. Yeah.
Casey Manning?
Yeah, I think so. I think he does.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was working for him. Mama's cousin worked for the Scouts out of college. He went to, maybe they were out of Hattiesburg or something like that. Had a big office down there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he worked for the Scouts. That's the one that we took hunting at, and we took Charles Pickering with us.
That's right. That's right. I forgot pictures.
That's
of that.
how he knew Charles Pickering, because I want to say they both worked for the Scouts back then.
They have. You know.
And he had something to do with the Scouts and Charles Pickering. I think Charles Pickering's still living.
Is he?
I think so. He got to be in his 90s.
Got to be up there.
The last I heard, he was still living. And because I asked somebody, he lives at Laurel down there. I got a lot of friends in Laurel, and I was asking around about him, and they said, "Oh yeah, he's still living."
Now Chip Pickering, we took him,
Right.
and he was like the representative,
Right.
U.S. representative
Yep.
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Chip. I don't see him.
I don't see.
I used to see him on social media some, but I don't see him
I don't
anymore.
see
There's
him
a bunch of
anymore.
those Pickerings down there, though.
Yeah.
And Brother Glenn's from Laurel.
Yeah.
Brother Glenn may be the one that told me he was still living. Actually.
Maybe now. Oh. But anyway, those are good memories from back in years ago.
What's the best duck hunt you ever went on?
Ooh.
Can you even tell about it?
I probably can. I know that just north of here, out there on a farm there, that I don't even know the name of it now, but it's, I think, close to where Wilton Hood used to live.
Oh, yeah.
It's out in that area. And all those younger, I was the oldest guy, but anyway, it was, several of us went. And those ducks that day were just coming in. And I can't remember how many it was, but we did get a few over the limit.
I got you.
And I've still got a picture of that somewhere.
How many years ago was this? 15, 20 years ago or something?
Probably
Or longer than that?
Probably longer than that.
In the 90s,
Yeah,
maybe?
Yeah.
The 90s were good duck hunting years. We killed a lot of ducks in the 90s. That's when I was doing all that guiding. I want to say that's when Pickering and them came with us, it was 2005. No, 2004, because we were working on this restaurant, but it wasn't open yet.
Okay.
Because you remember we went out in the street and ate with Walter.
We went out there to the big hole.
And we had good hunts.
We had a really good hunt.
Sure
It was
did.
like 5 of us. And I remember, of course, we had the federal judge with us
Right.
and the representative.
Right.
And we like needing 1 or 2 ducks left to get the limit. And I said, all right, now we got to only, 1 more, 2 more, whatever it was. And I said, somebody ought to just be designated to get this last one because we don't want to make a mistake. Cause
Right.
we
had the judge with us.
federal judge sitting over
Not
there.
this judge, either the
No,
federal
but,
judge.
Yeah. But that was a good hunt. I remember the picture of that.
Do you still have Billy then? Wasn't Billy the dog?
I think Billy was still.
I think
that
so.
that was the best dog I ever had.
I know. Tell them about Billy because I love the story of him
this-
and the ducks.
In the dust.
Yeah.
Old Billy. Now he was. It took me when I got him. I had him trained down with one of our guys that used to live around Drew. What was the guy's name that trained dogs down there?
I don't know.
I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, old Billy, he got off to a slow start because he didn't really know what was going on. But all of a sudden, about the 2nd year, a light bulb went off in his head. And he could pick those ducks up, and he would sit over there on his little stool, and he would hunt with you. He would watch for them. And right before the ducks would come in, you could see his back leg shaking. He was so
He knew it was
fired.
coming.
He knew what was coming. And I remember one time, this Mallard Manor outfit out here, they would come and I was at a meeting in Texas, at a cotton meeting or something, and the guy that owns that thing out there was running it, called me because I knew him, and he said, man, I've got like overbooked folks out here, and can you take some of them duck hunting? I said, well, I'm not going to be in till late tonight. And he was wanting to go the next morning. I said, I don't even know if I got any ducks. He said, yeah, you got some ducks because I rode by it. So I said, all right, I'll meet y'all out there in the morning. So I got out there and it was 3 couples, man and wife, 3 different guys and their wives. And they were excited. One of them had a big Chevrolet dealership, I think, in Alabama. I can't remember. But anyway, we got out there, and it was a good duck hunt because I had another guy, friend of mine, guiding 6 more of them back in the back hole in the pit blind hole.
Yeah.
So, they were having a big time. We didn't kill 2 of the ladies weren't shooting, but one of them was, and she was a good shot. So we were shooting ducks, and then one time some shovelers, the shoveler duck comes by, and we call them boot lips, or
Yeah, they got a derogatory.
they got a derogatory.
What us?
Their colors just don't match up right.
Yeah, something's off.
Something's off. But anyway, and I told them this story. I said, now look, a lot of people don't shoot shovelers, but if y'all want to, that's fine. That's not a problem because we got plenty of ducks we can kill, and we've already killed a lot of ducks. So I said, but there's one thing. I said, old Billy over here, he won't pick up a shoveler. He'll pick up every other kind of duck there is, but he knows he just won't do it. And they said, oh, I can't believe it, because he picked up 10 or 15 really good for him that day. And all of a sudden, it was kind of quiet. One single shoveler comes in, and the guy shoots it. It's perfect right there in the wide open, right in front of Billy, and Billy goes out there and he looks down at that duck, and then he turns back and looks at the blind like, "What did y'all do that for?" And then he walked back to the blind like,
Without the duck.
"I ain't touching it." And they couldn't believe it.
I know. I've seen Billy do that too. You know, we've had that happen a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Billy to eat the blind up too.
No, he would just chew the blind up. If it was a slow hunt, I'd call it rat hunting. He'd see a rat or something, and then
He'd get bored.
He'd get bored, and he'd start chewing it up.
He was a good one.
He was a good one. I think I kept a record, and after he died when he was 10 or 11, and he picked up about 3,000 ducks in 10 years.
That's amazing.
That's a lot.
And
That's
some of those
300 a
years
year.
was way over 300 a year.
Yeah,
Some of them.
Some of them.
I know because there were some years that he probably picked up 500 on some of those years.
Some of those years.
Boy, we had really good years.
He had a good deal, and then I got a dog now, and I guess I'm too old to have one now, but I got a pretty good one now. We just don't have the
You're
ducks
too
that we
old not to have one now.
Yeah, I know. I have to.
It's not fun going out there and
I have to
tromping
go.
it.
I have to go with some young folks to help put out decoys and
Yeah.
walk around in that mud.
It's not fun
The dog
picking them
will pick
ducks
'em
up.
No, you can't do it.
I
can't
took Bill last year. We had or year before last. We had a really good year before last hunting, and we had a bunch of ducks on a field we had subsoiled. We subsoiled it, rode it back up.
Yeah.
So it was pretty. You couldn't tell it'd been subsoiled. And we got to walking out there picking those ducks up, and he said, "Man, this is special mud right here."
Yeah.
And so we went the next weekend. He came back, and we killed the limit of a limit at the end of my woods, and we got done, and we got to glassing around with the binoculars, and they were back in that field again. And I said, "I believe we go down there and kill them in the morning." He says, "I don't want to go down there." He said, "Let's come back right here." I said, "Well, we're not going to kill as many ducks." He said, "I don't care. That's special mud. We're getting too old for that."
What now?
But we'd have loved to have Billy then.
Yeah.
And so we did. We didn't go back there. We went back to the other place and still had a good hunt. But it was some ducks out there. And he said, I'm not walking that again.
I've seen 4-wheelers, 3-wheelers, and trucks get stuck out there in that old bike gumbo. You know, it's got to be just right.
Well, the side by sides have made it so much easier.
Made it so much easier.
You can stay kind of clean. It's not throwing mud all over you. You can throw all your decoys in the back. Because it seems like we carry more stuff now.
I know.
Do we put out more decoys than y'all used to?
I think we do put out more decoys than we used to.
Because I don't remember. I remember being able to haul it all on a 4-wheeler, and I'm thinking, no way I could haul all
we
this.
put out different varieties. We'll put out pintail decoys over here. Put out teal decoys over here. Mallard decoys over here.
And then we got the battery operated stuff
battery
too.
operated water movement and all kind of stuff.
You gonna do the MCing for the duck calling again this year?
I guess so. I've been doing the MCing for the duck calling contest for a long time.
A while. How's Ronnie doing? I ain't talked to him in a while.
He's doing good. He's still doing good.
He sold his cows, didn't he?
I think so. Yeah. I talked to him. We were going to try to get together and go hunting one time, and something was up, and back and forth, and we never did get together.
I'm gonna get Josh on the show.
Need to get Josh.
But we should have had him here today. All three of us. We could have had a good conversation about some duck hunting.
Yeah.
He's good as gold. And for those that don't know, we do the duck calling championships here in Drew, and Tucker MCs it. But one of the championships is the Ronnie Raggio Regional.
Raggio Regional, yeah. And I remember Ronnie had liver failure or liver disease.
Yeah.
And he was on the transplant list to get a new liver, and it went down to the wire, and he was in a wheelchair right before he got the call, and then he got the call and got that transplant, and I talked to him after that, and he said, I could tell I was better the next day.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't that amazing? And his surgeon, a year, or it might have been 2 years to the date of that surgery that he had, his transplant surgeon and Ronnie, I carried him duck hunting out there at the Big Hole.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And I've got pictures of that.
I didn't know you took care of the surgeon too.
The surgeon came with it, and he was in a duck club somewhere south of here, And he had such a good time. He stayed the next day, and we hunted back behind the big hole the next
Yeah,
day.
that's a good spot back in there too.
We got the limit on both days.
Right up against Quiver.
Right up against Quiver. And that was the 2-year anniversary of Ronnie's transplant.
I don't think I went duck hunting but twice this year.
I didn't go much more than that.
Now my landlord went a good bit, and he advised I could have gone with him. They had a pretty good season.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Again, they got all that food out there. That helps a lot.
Yeah, we had a couple of good hunts late out there.
Yeah, it was good late out there too. Yeah, it was better in January for sure.
Yeah, for
December wasn't good at all. Yeah, and I think he was a little disappointed in December, but then January they had ducks.
Yeah,
I think 6-shooters had a pretty good year.
they probably did.
Especially early when nobody had much water.
Yeah.
It seemed like they had a bunch, but the ducks never really got on me. They were right across the road on Jeb. And we had water, but they never really got thick on me. They were ducks out there, but never a bunch.
Yeah.
I think right there at the end of the year, John William and them went a couple times that really had good hunts.
Yeah, there was a lot of ducks just east of me out there on all that 0 grade rice land of Mike's, that he keeps water on, and there was just.
Did they rebuild a cabin out there?
They're trying to get started on it, I think.
Yeah, they got electricity out there now, don't they?
Yeah.
Because I know you used to do it off that generator.
Yeah, they got, and they were gonna rebuild.
That's a nice place they had out there.
Yeah. Yep, it was nice.
Well, what's you got anything you want people to know before we wrap things up?
I don't know of anything. I just hope everybody has a good year farming.
Yeah.
The budgets are so tight.
Yeah.
And hope everybody.
I do want to ask you this about the duck hunting before we go. I should have asked you to brought your duck call and your lanyard.
Yeah.
How many banded ducks have you killed?
I've got 60. And
60 banded ducks.
Banded ducks, and have been in on the flip on a lot and lost.
Yeah.
That 3 of us would shoot a duck and one it'd be banded, and we don't know who shot it, so we'd flip a coin for it.
I never won the flip. Ever.
I won a lot of flips.
I have never won a flip. I don't know why I'm bad luck on the flip, but
I've won a lot of flips.
I've seen
lost
it.
Some too.
I've had it where there's 2 banded ducks were killed in the same volley.
Yeah.
And lost and didn't get one.
Yeah. Talking about how the ducks imprinted, though, I remember keeping up with it. I'd send off the band number, and they'd tell you where it was banded and born and raised and all that. And I had 6 banded ducks over the course of several years that were hatched and banded in the same location, and all 6 of them were killed out there at the big hole. So that area, wherever they were banding those ducks, apparently they had imprinted right here because I had 6 of them.
That is weird.
From the same place.
So they were definitely coming back and forth.
They were coming back and forth.
Have you seen these guys that have them on GPS now and they follow them?
I've
That's
seen
pretty
that.
neat.
I've seen that. I actually went with a guy. Remember Buster Young? We used to hunt together, and he killed a duck, or we killed a duck that had one of those antenna things on the back of his back.
Did they come looking for it?
No, it had a band on it, so we sent the band off, and they wrote me a letter about the collar and the transmitter, but it had gone bad. It wasn't working.
So it was long overdue.
But they knew it had one because of the band.
Yeah.
And so we went and sent the band number. They knew that was a.
Did you ever kill any of the money bands back in the day?
I've killed about 4 or 5. Killed $100 band one time.
And people don't even know about that anymore.
No,
they used to ban it. Wonder why they did that.
I don't know.
Some of them would be money and some of them be green.
They were green, and some of them were $10. And I've killed a couple of 10s and that 100. But they would be double banded. They'd have a band, and I guess they did that to make sure you would call it in.
Yeah, I always wanted to know where the duck came from.
Yeah.
And do they still send you the little certificate?
Yeah.
I think you go online now and put your numbers in.
You can go online and put your numbers in, because the last one I got last year was over on the river, and we were driving back and went to their website or whatever, put the number in, and then they printed off a thing.
That's pretty cool.
So.
60 bands.
Well, I've been doing it for
averaging
50
one
years.
one a year.
Yeah. Been doing it for 50
Everybody's
something
killed
years.
one every year, I guess. I had a band, lanyard I lost. It probably had 4 or 5 on it,
Yeah.
and so I've got my other ones. I don't even know how many, but I lost 4 or 5. But what was the worst thing about it, it had Daddy's bands on it,
Oh yeah.
and he probably had 7 or 8. You know, what Daddy quit for whatever reason when Daddy hit about. Well, I think I know why. But when he hit in about his mid to late 30s, he quit hunting. But he hated the cold. I mean, hated it. Hated it. Mammy said that when he was born in February, the door blew open to the house and a cold wind blew in, and he never been warm since. She said he never liked that.
Never liked
So he
the
would
cold.
like golf a whole lot more than he did.
The cold weather never bothered me back years ago. It kind of does now, but it didn't then. I was tough back in those days.
I don't like it anymore.
Yeah, I don't like it much.
Clothes are better, thank goodness. If you dress right, you can just about take it off. But I used to never wear gloves, and now my hands get cold out there, and I can't move. But I mean, and I've seen you do it too. We picked those decoys up out of that cold water with no gloves on, and then ride a 4-wheeler with no gloves on. And you talking about ridiculous?
I know it.
I'm like, I ain't driving a
I don't know how
4-wheeler.
we stood there. I guess we were young.
I don't know. I no way in the world I'd drive anything with no gloves on.
I know it. Yeah.
Even today, it's 60-something degrees out there, but the wind blowing, I might throw a jacket on.
I had a vest in my truck there this morning with that wind. But
Well, how many more years you gonna hunt and check cotton?
I'm gonna try to keep going at least a couple more. And
You got the place at Starkville now, and you got grandkids there, so I know you like being there.
Yeah, I go to Starkville and love to go to baseball games.
That's the best.
Yeah, so got grandchildren over there and watch them play basketball and tennis and whatnot. So
Now they go to Starkville Academy.
yeah. Little Lennox her basketball team just won the championship,
Oh yeah.
and they got them a ring.
Oh,
Got
nice.
a big old ring.
Did they really?
Yeah. They won the
How old is
championship.
Lennox?
Lennox is about 11,
Wow.
I think. 11 or 12.
It seemed like just a few days ago that Emily was the homecoming queen at almost at Ole Miss. Oh Lord, help me.
No.
And at Mississippi State,
Yeah.
and I brought Mary Stafford to take a picture with her.
Yeah.
You remember that,
was-
at the
that was-
tailgate? That was the year after.
The 2004 is when she was the homecoming queen, and that's 20 years ago, or
Yeah. Well, it
21.
was 20 years ago when I brought Mary Stafford,
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
was the year after when she was given the crown. Well, didn't she have to come out on the field the year after?
Yeah.
And that's when I took Mary Stafford. Mary Stafford would have been 6 at that point.
Yeah.
And now Mary Stafford is 25 years old.
I know. Yeah, time flies, man. Doesn't it? Wow.
And they got kids and all that. So I don't know. It's it goes way faster than I thought.
I
But
can remember her being the homecoming queen. Like I said, it's 25 years ago.
that's hard to believe.
21. Yeah. Wow.
Thank you, Tucker.
Yeah, man.
This was fun.
I enjoyed it.
I'm ready to get it edited, and I'll clip it out too.
Yeah.
And I'll put out some little clips. I'll